Thursday, November 9th. The Hollywood streets aren't crowded with the actors because the actors' strike is over. So after a combined 6 months of strikes, of which have been estimated to cost the California economy alone more than $6 billion, first the WGA strike got solved, and now finally, guys, SAG-AFTRA, the actors union, has reached a tentative agreement, and now the strike is officially over as of 12:01 a.m. So what we're covering in today's news roundup video is what's going to happen next with our favorite things that we cover here on the channel. So I'm going to be giving you the latest updates with regards to what that means for broadcast, the streaming series, movies, and of course casting. And I can't wait to get into that one. The casting for some of our favorite things out there, ranging from Superman Legacy, The Penguin, and The Batman Part 2 to that of a Deadpool 3 update from Ryan Reynolds, and much, much more. We're also going to be covering in the very back half of this video a little bit of an update on The Boys Season 4 and some more DCU leaks, as well as James Gunn speaking on the DCU. This video, as always, guys, is time-stamped. Skip around if you want to, although I do recommend sticking around for the entire duration of the video because I'm pretty sure the information will interest all of you. So first up with the actual tentative agreement that SAG-AFTRA managed to secure here. They've been successful in getting several different things, ranging from a streaming participation bonus, substantial increases for pension and health caps, pay increases for background actors, and major provisions for consent and compensation from the all-important threat of AI in the industry. And you guys, I'm sure, have heard quite a lot about that. And believe it or not, quite a bit more than that. So it seems that after all of this striking, the studios did give in on a lot of the major things that SAG-AFTRA were seeking. So you may be wondering what is next. Even though they've come to this agreement, it then goes to the board to sign off on this whole tentative deal, of which then it gets presented to the entirety of the 160,000+ members to vote to ratify the new agreement. And when that's done, finally, it will officially be over. Like, the striking part of it is over, but, you know, there's still the process that needs to happen officially. And in the next week or so, maybe this will take up to a couple of weeks, all of the members get a chance to look over what the SAG-AFTRA negotiators managed to secure for them, and they'll be going through that ratification vote to finally pass it. A few people will probably say no, but to me it's a bit of a formality. But the thing is, not to put a dampener on the situation, but I do want to keep everyone informed before we get into more of the juicy details of what comes out of all of this, is that next year there's also negotiations with the IATSE, which is the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. Now that, if you don't know, is essentially film crews, you name it. So Deadline have previously reported the AMPTP will have the IATSE to deal with next year. The IATSE members who have stood steadfast with striking actors and writers have suffered as much as the strikers, and no doubt will seek gains to make up for lost wages and massive hits in terms of employer contributions to their pensions and health plans during the strikes. And 2 years ago, IATSE members came within a few votes of rejecting their last contract and launching the first industry-wide strike in that union's history. So whether they'll be willing to strike after all the hardship they've endured during the pandemic and the strikes by actors and writers, or be more militant and ready to strike than ever, remains to be seen. So I just wanted to put that on people's radar. Finally, we got over the WGA strike. We got through the actor strike. Things are going to slowly start getting back to normal. But then before you know it, next year, there could be another roadblock potentially. But the thing is, the studios are likely anticipating this. They know that, for example, with the WGA agreement they came to and now the SAG-AFTRA agreement, other unions like the IATSE are going to be looking at that. And although they're different unions, there's going to be certain precedents set in place that will hopefully mean good things for other unions like this to secure a deal maybe a little bit easier. But we're going to have to wait and see. Let's hope that the studios aren't stupid and that they give them something good in the negotiations before they default to a strike. But let's actually get into what is going to happen now with all of your favorite projects. So starting off with broadcast TV, very, very briefly here, because we don't cover a whole bunch of that anymore on this channel except for one show. This would also apply to you with regards to if you watch any kind of broadcast TV out there. So production on returning series is now set to ramp up. Broadcast is expected to lead the way, with series going into full prep immediately, as the urgency there is the greatest. Indeed, just minutes after the end of the strike was announced, cast and crew started receiving notifications for tentative start dates in late November and early December. A returning series needs around 3 to 6 weeks for prep and pre-production, so with the Thanksgiving holiday around the corner, filming on the broadcast shows can start by the end of November or start of December. And a beginning of January start could also work for some shows to be able to produce 10 episodes that would be able to air before the end of the season in May. So with regards to this channel, I mean, that applies to any other shows that you're a big fan of, but on this channel, we also cover Superman and Lois here, and we know that it's been renewed for a 4th and final season. But the thing is, I can't imagine, especially given the WGA strike, that the season would have been written to fit in filming by January, as the 4th and final season is expected to be delayed until summer of 2024 at the earliest. That's the thing. So whereas there are series that are planning to shoot in January to make that mid-season airing date before or around May, I just can't imagine that's the same for Superman and Lois. So perhaps they'll aim to start filming around the spring, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it released near to September, maybe August if we're lucky by the time we're actually seeing it on our screens. Okay, so with broadcast out the way, what about the streaming series? So let's now start with Netflix's Stranger Things. Deadline report that there is a push to ramp up flagship series like Stranger Things, which was about to start filming its final season when the WGA strike started, putting production on hold. I hear the Netflix juggernaut is expected to start filming its final season in just a couple of weeks, which is pretty nuts. But at the same time, it's also not surprising because think how long that's been on ice for. The WGA strike started around May. Yeah, it was May. So like it's been delayed for a very, very long time. Deadline also go on to mention for the Matt Reeves Batverse fans here that streaming services which shut down during production when the writer's strike started, such as The Penguin, are also on a fast track to resume filming, which is fantastic news because if you couldn't tell here on the channel, we're a big fan of the Batverse here, including the spin-off series such as The Penguin. And, when it comes to this, they were already shooting for a little while before the strikes happened. So I imagine, as they're reporting here, and a similar thing to other streaming series, this is a very, very high priority to just kind of pick up where they left off. Now, although there isn't really a date for Penguin set right now, I am hoping that they might be able to squeeze in some filming by December, maybe even the end of November. Never say never, but don't forget that there's only so much filming that really can take place before, obviously, Christmas hits the industry. But then, obviously, you'd go straight back into it in January. Now, Neil Gaiman has also posted his excitement for Netflix's The Sandman being able to start filming as well. Just like The Penguin, it got through maybe a couple of episodes or so, and then for months and months and months, it's just been on ice. Now, there is no date for when The Sandman can start resuming its production for, I was about to say season 2, but Netflix isn't really calling it a season 2, given just the nature of The Sandman source material. That's a whole other thing I'm going to have to get into in another video. But any Sandman fans out there, and practically any show that you can think of like this, especially those that were already in production, you can somewhat clone a bit of a high priority to just getting that back on track. So what about the movie side? This is where things get pretty interesting. So a similar somewhat story with what Deadline are reporting here. While studios warned the Guild that movies wouldn't be able to start until January due to the holidays, they've been in pre-production on restarts for picks that had to pause back in July. So Deadline also hears that movies set to go back this week or in the very near future not only includes Deadpool 3, but also Gladiator 2 and Sony's Venom 3. Now, the thing about the Venom 3 thing is that could be true, but we are hearing at the same time that Venom 3 has now been pushed back with a new release date being November 2024. So I don't know if that means they will start production as per what they're reporting in the very near future or even this week, like Deadpool 3. But speaking of Deadpool 3 here, that seems quite a bit more accurate because we had just today Ryan Reynolds posting a picture to his Instagram saying, "Did Dog Paul save the day? Not a chance in Gremlin hell." But she is currently causing the Disney plushie merch department nightmares. Coming with the movie, summer 2024. So I think he just wanted to take to social media that after the SAG-AFTRA tentative deal, it's like, hey guys, don't worry, it's not being pushed back to like the fall of 2024. Here we are with Deadpool 3 coming this summer. We're getting right back to it as soon as we can. And we also have some other updates, some obvious ones here, like Beyond the Spider-Verse can return to voiceover recording now that the SAG-AFTRA strike has ended. Now, this is what Deadline has to say about Superman Legacy. So in regards to James Gunn's second DC feature, Superman Legacy, starring David Corenswet as the Man of Steel and Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, that movie, which was prepped all summer, is looking at a March shoot for a June 11th, 2025 release. So I feel like there was maybe a typo here because it definitely wouldn't have been pushed forward to June because the slated release for Superman Legacy is actually July 11th, 2025. So I don't think the strikes would have caused it to be, oh, no, it's now June. And they say, and as far as Andy Muschietti's The Brave and the Bold Batman film goes, that pick is still early in the process, with the director focusing now on the It prequel Max series, Welcome to Derry. Now, more on The Brave and the Bold and a little bit in the back half of this video because that refers to perhaps a little bit of a rumor about the writer. Now, a huge thing about SAG-AFTRA coming to this agreement and things slowly getting back to normal. Up next, we need to talk about casting because casting can now start to flood the industry with news. Even though as we approach this time of year, Hollywood is quite slow when it comes to casting and, you know, agents going about getting deals and sealing contracts for their clients. But it does seem as though there was actually quite a bit of casting done before the strikes even commenced. It's just that, for example, James Gunn didn't get around to, announcing them. For example, if you guys remember, right before the SAG-AFTRA strike commenced, Anthony Carrigan's Metamorpho, Isabella Merced's Hawkgirl, Eddie Gathegy's Mr. Terrific, Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner were all announced. I think it was like the day before. And there is technically even more out there, especially with what we discussed in the recent DC News Roundup videos, such as Anya Chalotra playing Cersei in Creature Commandos. That was kind of leaked through her official CV on a casting website, but that hasn't been officially announced. But of course, there are Superman Legacy castings, such as Lex Luthor and others, with James Gunn even teasing not so long ago when a fan asked, do you have your finger on the trigger waiting to announce more Legacy castings as soon as the strike ends? And he was like, yeah, with 3 emojis there. And then as soon as the strike ended last night, he put the same emoji. Like that was the only thing he posted. So you can bet your ass, guys. You can bet your ass we are going to be getting like massive casting news very, very soon. I'm thinking maybe Lex Luthor first. It could be someone like Perry White at the Daily Planet, maybe Papa Kent and Martha Kent. I'm hoping Papa Kent's still going to be in it. Jimmy Olsen, of course. We're going to have to wait and see. Maybe even more superheroes, even though I don't know if there's going to be a lot of people who are big fans of that, considering we've already got a few heroes in the movie. But we're going to have to wait and see. But honestly, keep your eyes peeled. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because I will be hot on it as soon as we hear any news about who is going to be playing Lex Luthor. And even though I said just a second ago with regards to how contracts and deals aren't made as often this time of year, this could be obviously quite a bit different given, the strikes is what halted everything. Meaning that there's probably plenty of agents with clients who had deals maybe in the talks before the strikes commenced months and months ago that will still likely get made for quite a few people. With Deadline even saying this, with the strike set to end at 12:01 a.m., deal-making and even talent meetings on projects can commence again by morning. For the past couple of months, actors were not even allowed to have general meetings with studio execs while the strike was going on, let alone negotiate a deal to join a project. A huge surge in talent deals closing is expected. I'm going to be posting like 20 different news roundup videos probably over the next couple of months. Now, what does this mean with regards to projects like The Batman Part 2? Because I've seen quite a lot of discussion out there for movies, and The Batman Part 2 is a good example because this was a project that was still being written by Matt Reeves and his partner Matt Tomlin when the strikes commenced. So when the strike ended at the very ending of September, they were then allowed to continue writing part 2. And part 2 of The Batman had probably already been written, you know, to some extent. Like, we don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know exactly how far they got. I would like to think that they had completely, you know, got the whole outline there, and maybe they've even written from start to finish. But as you guys know, if you're writing something, you're going back and forth, editing in and out, or maybe changing something up, draft after draft, even if you finish the first draft or the second draft kind of thing. So they've now had just over a month or so resuming the Batman Part 2 writing. That's if they did resume straight away, but you'd have to think they did, considering the original production date was the month we're in right now for Part 2. They were meant to start production this month, but it's been pushed back to March. So they've got time. They've got time to complete the writing for the Batman Part 2, but given that they are most likely getting closer and closer to having a fully realized The Batman Part 2 script, sometimes what coincides with that, with what Dylan Clark might be doing, the producer of The Batman, with, you know, what I remember them saying with how Matt Reeves was writing with Robert Pattinson in mind, and how Dylan Clark had a meeting with Robert Pattinson and said maybe something's on the table. Like, now this stuff, as per what we were talking about, like general meetings or feeling things out, they're probably, if not already, eyeing up actors to be in talks fairly soon for whether that's a smaller role, like into that of Commissioner Pete Savage in the first movie, or even that of like Gil Coulson. There's going to be, you know, talks for that. But obviously, then of course the much bigger roles, such as the new Rogues Gallery villain, whomever that may be. Is it Hush? Is it Clayface? Is it frickin', I don't know, because the rumors never cease. But what I dug up from the Internet Archives, just to give you a good idea of what to expect, maybe sooner rather than later. I'm thinking, like, don't think it's going to happen right away or in 2 weeks from now, but we are now on the precipice again of articles like this that you're seeing on screen popping up. So here we have Deadline reporting Jonah Hill in talks for Matt Reeves' The Batman at Warner Brothers, dated September 23rd, 2019. And then there were subsequent articles after this saying, oh, you know, Jonah Hill could be playing the Penguin or the Riddler. And then Jonah Hill is now out because he's asking for all of this money, like twice the amount than the leading star of the movie, Robert Pattinson's, getting for playing the Batman. And then lo and behold, it was Paul Dano being tapped to play the Riddler. So all of these little cooking articles leading the way to the production in March will be coming our way. There's no actor strike prohibiting scoops like this from happening anymore. Having said that, I do want to kind of put some caution out there. Nothing too scary. I'm just saying that, for example, Superman Legacy is also slated to start production and filming in 2024 March. Casting has already been underway, and we've had David Corenswet cast, we've had Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, and we're about to get a boatload more, possibly Lex, as I've already discussed. The Batman Part 2 is still in the final stages of being written. And yes, they can still meet filming technically by March 2024 like Superman Legacy, but I just wanted to say, this hasn't had any casting yet. We haven't had an official announcement from Warner Brothers that, okay, Matt Reeves and Matt Tomlin have completely closed the book on Part 2's writing process, and now they're already casting. But I do want to say, not every project is the same. They can still be dotting their I's and crossing their T's of the Part 2 script, basically nearly done, and also start looking to cast people at the same time, you know, at the very back end of it. But I just wanted to say, it's not identical potentially to how far along Superman Legacy is, with that script being done now for a very long time, and that's why you're seeing all of this pre-production stuff with James Gunn looking at the aesthetic of the movie, suit designs, all of this stuff he's already talked about. Like, he's way further along, and again, that starts filming the same time apparently as what the Batman's been reported to start filming, and that is March. So I'm not saying that the Batman Part 2 is going to be pushed back from like March to like April, May filming, but just don't be like absolutely gobsmacked if we did hear something like that. And then there's just the ripple effects in other things with all of this, with this now coming to an end. Like, for example, Jason Momoa can now probably start some form of press for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, so Aquaman 2. Now Jason Momoa, if you think about it, is going to have to start ducking Lobo questions during Aquaman 2 press interviews, which is going to be pretty interesting to see happen. Then just think of any other project that you're excited for and how actors can now basically talk about it. Possibly DCU comments. Maybe I would love some kind of comment from Brosnahan or David Corenswet with regards to their roles for Superman Legacy. Maybe costume fittings might get pushed out there to garner excitement for his new DCU, of which not all fans are on board for. So like if he gave us a little look at the Superman suit in a couple of months or so's time, I think maybe that would get some people excited. So guys, I think that is the main bulk of probably things you should know or maybe be refreshed about coming out of this strike. This is a huge, huge win. Things are going to be getting back on track very soon, and even until they do, we're going to be hearing all kinds of things that will make it feel like things are already kind of back to normal. I'm not saying you're going to get a trailer for Deadpool 3 or the Batman Part 2 like next week. Of course not. Like, let's not get crazy. But trust me, comparatively to what we haven't had for months upon months, and we've just been looking at frickin' tweets and little scraps of info here, that's all gonna change. Okay, and lastly for this video, guys, there's a couple of other updates that I mentioned at the beginning that I wanted to get to that I haven't managed to squeeze into previous videos. So this is a DCEU leak for the writer of The Brave and the Bold in the DCU. So the Batman movie, apparently 3-time Oscar nominee John Logan, so Gladiator, The Aviator, Hugo, Skyfall, is in talks to write The Brave and the Bold for DC Studios. Which I have to say, I mean, say what you will about some of those movies, maybe you love them, maybe you don't love them, but I have to say it is quite a prestigious writer to get for The Brave and the Bold. So I guess that's what there is to say about this right now, that there isn't at the moment like anything confirmed about this, but I have been going over recent DC leaks, and it's interesting when I've gone back into the past how many of them, as the months unfolded, turned out to be true each step of the way. And when it came to Brave and the Bold information, that was always accurate. So maybe this is true. That would be very, very, very fascinating. I know quite a few people are apprehensive about The Brave and the Bold with regards to Andy Muschietti handling it after what happened with the Flash movie. But then again, you know, as I've said before, and I'm not saying he would make an amazing job of The Brave and the Bold. I don't know that. It's impossible to know that right now. But maybe if the writer was different for the Flash because he didn't write the movie, somebody else wrote it, and then like he shot the movie, and sure, it was his creative vision in there as well, but maybe paired with a prestigious writer like this, it could amount to a much, I mean, I would hope so, better project than that of what the Flash turned out to be. And from what I've heard from a lot of people, they enjoyed the Batman parts that Andy Muschietti pulled off in the movie more so than the other parts of it. So we're gonna have to wait and see. Let me know your thoughts on this down in the comments below. Again, it is just a rumor for now. Another update that I wanted to talk about is in response to my previous video where we talked about how Anya Chalotra has been cast in Creature Commandos, even though it would have been done a long time ago, and that got out. She's been cast as Cersei, but we also spoke about how the animation studio handling Creature Commandos did a presentation, and that YouTube video of their presentation got taken down from Warner Brothers because of copyright reasons, probably because they were saying maybe a few too many things. They said that it was slated to release in 2025. I said in my video, I don't know if that was them misspeaking, because it was odd to hear that, given that James Gunn, as well as other people attached to the project, said no delays, it is 2024, so I kind of just left it there. And then lo and behold, James Gunn went to Twitter the day I posted the video, saying, yes, Creature Commandos is all set to come out in 2024. There have never been delays, thank goodness. Any info otherwise is a well-intentioned mistake or misspeaking. So he's kind of saying on the latter there, yeah, I kind of know about that presentation video. Yeah, it's just a well-intentioned misspeaking at the event, and it is very much so coming out next year. And lastly, everyone, that's if people have made it to this part of the video. I don't know, but I love The Boys. We covered season 3 on this channel. I loved covering it. It was really great just to see how people were turning up for those videos. I do apologize that I wasn't able to carry on with my Gen V reviews, but yesterday we got our first posters for The Boys Season 4, and trust me, I'm going to be covering The Boys Season 4. Like, there's no way in hell that I'm going to be missing out on weekly reviews for that. So what I find really interesting here, and they've done a couple of posts, I should start with this one, where they say, while you wait for 2024, here's what we can say about Season 4 so far. So timeline-wise, it takes place about a month after the events of the Gen V finale. Butcher knows about the virus. Do with that little piece of intel what you will. Homelander will stand trial, and we spoke about this here on the channel in my first few episodes because, yeah, there was that little news report for lasering a Starlighter's head off. Vought even made a hashtag for the occasion. Hashtag home free, of course, a very Vought thing to do. The events of Season 4 will lead into Gen V Season 2. Fair enough, they really want to kind of, have those shows syncing to each other. But as they say here with some people's concerns about that, do you need to watch both shows to understand one or the other? No. Should you? Abso-fucking-lutely. So, like, the thing is, it's definitely a companion piece. You don't have to watch it. It will kind of enhance your experience. So I'm very much so looking forward to The Boys Season 4, especially with the teasers for Homelander already, especially in these posters here. The way it looks like he's rallying people. I think he's going to incite something that could be very, very dangerous. And as we know, The Boys has quite a lot of political undertones that they've carried from the comics here, often reflecting quite a bit of reality, memeing on some of the crazy events that have actually happened in what we have all experienced. And that is very heavily likely going to be put onto Homelander here. And I'm wondering if, obviously this is a poster, but you can see that, he's presenting in front of loads and loads of people. At the end of last season, after murdering a Starlighter, everyone started cheering, and he was like, wait, what? And he started laughing, the famous scene that turned into a meme. So you can only imagine how much more they're going to step that up. How much further is this going to somewhat push his ego to surpass the law and the trial that he's on? Like, the trial of Homelander, I think that's going to be beefy. And if anything goes wrong for him, I think he's just going to finally be like, screw it, like, I'm not like within the confines of the law. And then you see Butcher, of course, and it's kind of like the party's over. That's the way I read this, with the balloons on the floor. But he's still going to give it one last stab. With the party being over, what I mean by that is obviously, given the events of last season, he didn't fulfill what he kind of wanted to do with Soldier Boy. Now, after the 10th V, he is extremely ill with very much so a limited time. But even with what I view with the party coming to a close with the balloons on the floor here, he's gonna really give it one last hurrah. The parallels between both posters here, like Homelander rising and Butcher's kind of like melancholy party over scene, is fascinating, but I think it's gonna somewhat subvert our expectations there. I mean, this is Billy fucking Butcher that we're on about here. Any theories you have? Let me know down in the comments below. But I'm gonna wrap this video up there. I've been rambling for so long. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It feels so good knowing that both strikes now have come to an end. Let me know down in the comments below what project, production, whatever it is, what kind of news you're most looking forward to hearing about. Can't wait to see what you guys say. I've got a guess with regards to some of your comments. But if you enjoyed this video, would really appreciate a like. Do subscribe for more news, reviews, breakdowns just like this. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.